Hello and welcome back to REV Endurance Sports, and probably a new series. I got to figure out what to call this, but basically it's like you are the bike mechanic or you are the shop owner. What we have is a bike that came in today. Pardon the noise. Actually yesterday, and the gentleman wants a tune-up and he wants some general service work. So as we started to go through it, or even before we went through it, I said, what's your budget here? Because there's a lot of things that I see that are glaring, and then there are other things that once we get into the job, I'm probably going to find. And he said, oh, well, probably 200 or 300 or something. But the gentleman also has the idea that he wants to sell the bike, but he wants to ride it a little bit, sell it, and then get a better bike. So now you, as the shop mechanic, shop owner, you have to do this cost feasibility analysis for the customer. How much money should this customer put into the bike so he can get some miles on it, because the bike's been sitting for about 2 years, get some miles on it so that then he can buy another bike, but at least get most of that money back when he sells the bike, right? So let's start with the front end. Now, this being a Tiagra 9-speed group set, see if I can get that to focus. This was the shift housing coming out of the left-hand shifter, or the front derailleur shifter. And so that housing is compromised. The shifter does not click through all the gears, so the shifter is stuck. And initially I pulled this out to check and see, got a lot of wind here, to check and see if maybe the cable had shredded inside the shifter, but it's intact, so that's good. And that's because it's an external one like this, whereas it's not one of the ones that's doing the 90-90 going through and hidden, which I think was the issue with so many of the 11-speed systems. Okay, so now his grips are, they're gone, right? They're just toast. And here's the problem with that as soon as I went to peel back to get the part number here, it just split, right? Because the bar tape needs to get replaced, then you need to roll these back, because the bar tape goes underneath here with your figure 8. So the grips, 4501 Tiagra, so 9-speed Tiagra, very hard to find, and they need to be replaced before you do the bar tape. Okay, so this is something you make contact with the bike the entire ride, and the bar tape, right? So those two things are bad. The housing for the front derailleur is bad. The cable, we replaced. The front tire is flat, but good news is, the tube is flat, but the tires are in good shape. So, okay, that's good. They are very small and narrow now by today's standards. This is a 23, but I bet that rim is probably only like 17, because look at how much this bowls out as a 23 tire to this rim. So this is a very narrow rim. All right, now one other thing. This is not the customer's proper saddle height. He doesn't know it, but we can work together on that. This needs to be much higher than it is now. Probably at least 2 to 3 centimeters. Now, let's get into a few things that you just can't believe that you see this kind of stuff. All right, so this rear derailleur is a very short cage rear derailleur. That's just the way they used to make stuff those days. This 45 4501 Tiagra was released in 2006, so it's 19 years old as a group set when it was released. All right, so see how this rear housing here, so it doesn't have an outer cap there, it doesn't have an outer cap here, and oh, by the way, this is this is brake housing. This is not shift housing, right? So that needs to be corrected. But I mean, does the bike shift? Yeah, it shifts. Is it crisp? No. But remember, we're trying to keep this customer under a budget. If I go to take this out, you can see that this cable is already frayed. So new cable, new housing from front to back, right? Because you got to do the front portion of it, and you got to do the back portion. We were talking about this short cage derailleur. Well, this derailleur, if you look here, the bead tension is screwed in all the way. And these last two cogs, so this is a beautiful cassette, nice and big, but these last two cogs, you can't get into them. So you can get into this one, the second to last, but it's grinding, and then on the last one, it's the whole time. So it's a nice, wonderful cassette for our hills here and for a cyclist who's not fit yet, but the derailleur is too short. So, do we want to spend money on buying a new cassette, or do we want to spend money on buying a new derailleur? Now, I'm not a big fan of road links. Most of you should know that by now. His brake pads are worn unevenly, but these are a complete, pad. So I would like to convert him over to just where you have the holder, and then you just replace the pads, which is, generally the way you would want to go anyway. So there's just a lot of little things that just add up, and we're well over budget. So the tune-up alone is $99, but that doesn't cover everything that is wrong with the bike. So, we're at a point where how much do we do? So you folks, as the viewing public, a smart and frugal bunch, can probably say, all right, well, do this, but ignore that, or do all of it, and, just be a super nice guy and give it to him for free, right? But that's just not how it's going to work. So I can't really turn the bike around, but these types of outer caps is what should be back here. So hopefully that can come into focus. So this doesn't have that. So it's just the housing going straight into the fitting. There's just a lot of things that need to be done correctly on this bike. But if you do it, then you got to replace the cables and housing, because that is also the correct way to do it. Yeah. Oh, and then of course the chain and the drivetrain is just really, really, really dirty. And but the chain, believe it or not, has a lot of life left in it, so it does not need to be replaced. But it's very, very dirty. You could see all the way down inside there how dirty it is. And so, yeah. So what in a list of priorities, what would you do? As in, must be done, can be done, and then lastly, well, it would be nice to do that. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. You are now the mechanic, you are now the shop owner, and you have to deliver this news to the customer. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.